hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, bula, yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, 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 yeah. Don't you know I have fallen in love with you? Hula bula, bula, yeah. Oh, the rest of my whole life through. Hula bula, 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 yeah. My precious darling, don't you know? Hula bula, bula, yeah. I was yours from the very day. Hula bula, 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 yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, bula, yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, 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 yeah. Yisikutsu iksakan, hula bula, bula, yeah. Aku sakan yakai koksati, hula bula, 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 yeah. Aku sakan yisiku, hula bula, bula, yeah. Yayaki ClearClick so kai koksati, hula bula, 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 yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, bula, yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, 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 yeah. Don't you know I have fallen in love with you? Hula bula, bula, yeah. Oh, the rest of my whole life through. Hula bula, 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 yeah. My precious darling, don't you know? Hula bula, bula, yeah. I was yours from the very day. Hula bula, 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 yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, bula, yeah. Hula bula, hula bula, hula bula, 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 yeah. Hula bula, 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 yeah.
And as we stand here where the ancient have roamed, we see where they were writing on stone. Their days have passed and left us alone, and all that's left is writing on stone. Now we stand before the earth's wise men, who look at us and we're fools once again. But like these ancient ones who've written on stone, they too must run to stand all alone. Sometimes in dreams these ancient ones dance. The sons of Adam, oh, they carve in a trance. They strike the rock, now I'm standing alone, and all that's left is writing on stone. What happens to the space that we occupy? Who fills the void when we go out and die? Our lives like autumn leaves on the ground, they are blown, and all that's left is writing on stone. And all we have is the promise of His mercy, a love so pure, oh, it shines like gold. But better still, one bright diamond of promise, in the shade of grace, restful peace for the soul. Yes, all that's left is writing on stone. Yes, all that is standing alone. Rock my soul, rock my soul.
Headline in the paper told me to set my clocks ahead. So I hopped into the kitchen and I did what they said. Then I hung that clock back on the wall and turned around in shock, 'cause everywhere that I stared I found another clock. Spring ahead, fall back, all around my little shack. Underneath every rock there's another stupid clock. I'm wound up 'cause I've got the chronological blues. There was one in the microwave oven and one in the kitchen range, a magnetic one stuck on the fridge, but I took them all down to change. Found one in the wall and two in the hall and one in the VCR. Said, I guess that's it. I think I'll split, but I didn't get very far. Calculator, car, and phone machine. I had clocks I'd never seen. The Mr. Coffee, can't forget it. And even the computer, but I don't know how to set it. Spring ahead, fall back, all around my little shack. Underneath every rock, there's another stupid clock. I'm wound up 'cause I've got the chronological blues. Well, I got 'em all done, can't call it fun. Thought I'd sit and have a beer. It was quite a feat to complete, felt like it took a year. Then I turned on the TV news and I thought I'd have a heart attack. Seems it took so long to set those clocks, it was time to set 'em all back. Spring ahead, fall back, all around my little shack. Underneath every rock, there's another stupid clock. I'm wound up 'cause I've got the chronological blues.
walk along the beach or through our southeast rainforest can be a quieting, contemplative experience. Hello, I'm Scott Foster. Welcome to Rain Country. When that walk also takes place during a low-cloud, misty day, when there are a few steps taken through an old-growth forest, and when your mind is set just right, it's not too hard to imagine what this land and its people must have been like thousands of years ago, long before the first explorer ships ever arrived.
Sandy Beach is an archaeological site, and we know that from the evidence on the tide flats and up on the forested areas that this was a prehistoric fish camp occupied probably by the Tlingit Indians perhaps thousands of years ago. Right along this outside edge here. Stay there, please. This is the trap. Can everybody see this circular shape here? This would be the inside. If you all were salmon, you'd swim right through in here and be trapped as the tide went out. And at the time that it was being used, the rocks would have been tall enough, the pile of rocks would have been tall enough to prevent the salmon from jumping over or getting through the traps. One of the basic questions that archaeologists are trying to answer in southeast Alaska is, when did the Tlingit Indians arrive here? I'd say 1,000 years old for the Tlingit arrival is probably the latest date. Others believe that they've been here a little bit longer, perhaps 3,000 years old, and that in fact the rise in the use of these fish traps may be the hallmark of the Tlingit culture, at least the first Tlingit people to arrive here.
Mark McCallum and the Forest Service have publicized the location of this archaeological site, hoping that with public understanding will come public protection. Despite that, the stone fish traps might not be obvious to the casual observer. To help show the shape during one of his tours, McCallum lined a group of Petersburg students along what's left of the rock funnel leading into a trap, and then used an old technique to save 1,000 words.
Spread out so everybody can see, okay? Basically, the traps were shaped like a heart, like that, okay? And then they had leads on them, or a funnel, like that, okay?
In addition to the stonefish traps at Sandy Beach, there are also traps made out of wood stakes. McCallum thinks these are more recent and perhaps replaced the stone traps because they were easier to build.
Now, here's the bottom of one of the stakes. Can you see how that's pointed? See? They would point the stick so that they could drive it down into the sand. They had big flat rocks called pile drivers that they would use to pile the rock down. They used stone tools to make this. You know, these stakes here have a potential to be about 3,000, 3,500 years old. That's a long time back. So these stakes would have stood up even higher than this, right along in here, and then there would have been twigs and branches woven in between that would have acted as a basket or a net to keep the salmon inside.
Fish traps are not the only indication of the early use of the Sandy Beach site. Near the tide line on a prominent rock are petroglyphs.
Well, this is so old. These are 3,000 to 5,000 years old. Wow. Somebody was out here, and we don't know what they mean anymore. The stories are so old that they've been lost to the people.
Petroglyphs will be an enigma for people for probably ever. They're not like hieroglyphics that can be deciphered or translated. In the case of the petroglyphs at Sandy Beach, they may be a way of telling other clans that these traps belong to a particular clan. They may also be a way of, again, paying respect to the salmon in order for them to come back year after year. They may have been used to mark a particular event in time. They may have simply been an indication that people were there. They may also be used as travel markers to orient other people to the area, share with them information on where resources could be found. And some of them could simply be there for art purposes.
There's so much moss.
So there are a lot of explanations for petroglyphs and other types of rock art, but we'll probably never know the exact meaning.
After learning about the petroglyphs on the rock and the fish traps on the beach, it's back to school for the students and a later visit by their guide to put the trip into perspective.
Basically, this is the tide flat, or would represent the tide flat like we walked out on this morning. The tide rises and the fish swim over the traps, and then as the tide recedes, they follow through this funnel. They can't get through these areas, and they end up inside this trap, and most of them, if not all of them, can't get out. Can you see on this illustration here, they made these carvings. They're almost like small totem poles. And these were ways of paying respect to the salmon people. And they were in a sense saying, you were good to us this year and we were respectful of you and we hope that you come back next year to feed our family.
McCallum also tells the students about other ways early residents caught fish, such as weirs built out of logs to prevent salmon from swimming upstream, or made out of rocks. Basket traps that captured salmon when they jumped inside, or when they were funneled inside a box. In addition to drawings, McCallum also shows slides of fish traps that have been found in Southeast.
This is an aerial photograph of a stone weir. The idea of the weir is to prevent the progress of the salmon up the stream, and the people would stand at the wall and spear or net the fish. This is an aerial photograph of probably the most common type of fish trap that we find in Southeast Alaska. This area here marks the boundary between the tide flat and saltwater. The upland areas, forested areas are back here. You can see these alignments of rock here, which are used to trap the fish. This is a ground eye view of a fish trap. You can see the outline of the rocks poking out of the water, coming around like this. And as the tide would come in, the fish would get back in this pool here and would be trapped as the tide went out.
McCallum says archaeologists have only looked at about 1% of the land in Southeast, and they've already found about 200 fish trap sites. He estimates there are probably several thousand other sites located throughout Southeast. If new ones are found, McCallum asks they be reported to Forest Service archaeologists. And anyone finding a trap should realize they are very susceptible to damage by humans.
As we saw here at Petersburg, some of the stakes have eroded out. Some people have come out here and used the stakes as digging sticks for clamming. And once these stakes are pulled out of the sand, they tend to decompose very quickly, because what happens when the stakes are buried and covered with the sand, they're sealed off from oxygen and they're kept wet and they preserve in place. But once they're pulled out, they're exposed to the air and they'll decompose within a matter of weeks. So they're very fragile resources, and we encourage people to come out and look at these sites and to touch them and feel them and take photographs, but to leave them behind so that we can learn about the past.
Riding down the highway with Cowboy Joe, met Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo, he's trying to get away from being warm, they did dances to them and them. M's wearing drawstrings, lisping and long, singing "Please put me into your highway song." I say, hey, who's going my way on that great Alaska highway? Well, I would never be so dumb. Say they stole an election. They bought the damn thing fair and square. The emperor's in his underwear. Oh, King Cole's a merry old troll. Certain General Smalls from Marlboro. I say, hey, who's going my way on that great Alaska highway? I say, hey, his blood will spill. God sits in his rocking chair, 2 flat tires and 1 good spare. Britney Spears joins Cowboy Joe with a hey and a ho and a do-si-do. I say, hey, who's gonna know it on that great Alaska highway? West Palm Beach and Cheech and Maydog Chonk, and we all just get along. Anchored down in Kodiak with a heart attack. You ought to know by now, by Joel. West Palm Beach and Cheech and Maydog Chonk, and we all just get along. Anchored down in Kodiak with a heart attack. You ought to know by now, by Joel. Hanging out with Cowboy Joe, Keith Richards stopped to say hello. Playing my guitar, he plays along. Song after song after song after song. Now that I played with the likes of him, I ain't never gonna settle for less, my friend. I say, hey, who's going my way? On that great Alaska highway. I say, hey, who's going my way? On that great, on that great, hey, who's going my way? On that great Alaska highway. I say, hey, who's going my way? On that great Alaska highway.
In the depths of my desire, there's a golden path that leads your way. Like a George, I'm very curious. Something tells me I must stay away from the darkness, away from the pain. Hoping your light will come my way. Just one look from you when I'm feeling blue. That's all I need from you when I'm feeling blue. Just one look from you when I'm feeling. Just one look from you.
To my interpretation, I see it twisted, and I'm afraid it's permanent. Seem a little out of place, rising from the ground. Strangely keeping pace with the strangest people here in the town. Where in God's name did you come from? How in the hell did you end up here? Mr. Murray, leave a piece of his own thumb or an empty case of Canadian beer. Throw a little bit of me. Time has passed us by. We share a little history, and I think it's time that I finally tell you why. eyes are open all the way. Through the winter's fading light, through the summer's midnight day. And I'll admit I'm a little bit like you. I make lots of people sneer. Stand alone is all that we can do, while our feet are planted here. You seem a little out of place, rising from the ground, but strangely keeping pace with the strangest people here in this town. You seem a little out of place. This is what I found. We got a little bit of our own space among the strangest people here in this town. So I'll admit I'm a little bit like you. I make lots of people sweet. Stand alone is all that we can do, while our feet are planted here. Seem a little out of place, rising from the ground, but strangely keeping pace with the strangest people here in this town. Seem a little out of place. Hey, this is what I found. We got a little bit of our own space among the strangest people here in this town. Yo.
I've been trying to work hard for the children, our great-grandchildren. My grandfather used to tell me what to do. He used to say to me, son, grandson, Don't die with the story. Pass it on. So this is what I'm doing. I try to teach the children.
All the things that he had been taught, he was willing and ready to pass on. Anything that he did was more for the younger people and for the oncoming generation. Austin has made an effort to try to protect our rights as Tlingit people, the land. He was a good caretaker and a good leader for our people, our clan, Cukaunak.
Austin Hammond Daanawáak was born in a place called the Sanke. It was his family's fish camp across the channel from Haines, which is where he spent most of his life. Austin was Cukaunak. He had a very important name. His father was from Cukaunak. He was Kagwantan, so that made him Kagwantanyadi. And his Shangukedi Dachhan, all very important to his genealogy and his self-esteem, I think. They trained him.
Austin was born into a century and at a period in time where Tlingit culture was not desirable. They were viewed as paganistic. Their beliefs were not held in high regard. And so there was this real repression of Native culture at the time that Austin was born. And yet, despite all of this, he was able to be raised and socialized in a Tlingit culture.
I think he went as far as 2nd or 3rd grade, and that was it. But he had a lot of Tlingit education. His uncles taught him things, and his grandfather.
From the time he was a real young man, they already recognized his potential. I mean, Austin had said this to me many different times, you know, that grandchildren too were like the clay of their grandparents, and that they started molding them from a very early age, and he was one of these people.
There are many young people born into being a leader, and from birth they start to train these people. And out of these few that are born into it, maybe one stands out among them. And that man is then chosen to be the leader of the clan. As Austin, he was the one chosen because he was the person that worked for his people, not for himself.
And his grandfather told him, there will be a tidal wave, get ready. And it will come, and it will be like it's covering you up. Be there, take care of the land, protect the land for your grandchildren.
Austin had many names. Daanawáak is one of those names that is hardly given to anybody who's just born. You have to earn it. You have to earn it to receive that kind of name. The Daanawáak of Haines. Daanawáak is silver eye for the raven. Raven we see flying around. Their eyes look like silver. Well, when you become a leader, and with each name comes a lot of responsibility. And you have to train yourself, or somebody tells you how to do things. And just keep on concentrating on the leadership. And the other is, as a leader, you know, you really have to be a role model for the rest of the people.
There's many things that he done as a leader for the Cukaunak people. And one of them was to be the caretaker of the Raven House, and he spent many years working on this house to rebuild it. And also all the regalia or artifacts that was passed on to him that he took care of. The names of our people, he became the caretaker of. The sounds of our people, he became caretakers of.
Raven House was sort of like a warehouse for all of the Raven group that was there. Seemed to have gathered right into Raven House. These are the art pieces. There are chilkat blankets and skin robes and skin tunics and headpieces. They were all left with Austin from all the different houses that were up in Haines.
Austin had a very full life. He was a commercial fisherman, he raised a family, he was active in the Salvation Army Church and the Alaskan Native Brotherhood. Besides being a traditional leader, he was a good provider for his people through subsistence hunting and fishing. But there came a time when he really began to focus on the obligations given to him by his elders. There came a time when his health began to fail. During this time, he began to have powerful dreams. He remembered the words of his grandfather about the importance of sharing his cultural knowledge. He dedicated the rest of his life to teaching this knowledge.
And one of the first things that he talked about was having had a heart attack. And he said that he thought he was going to die. And he came to a realization that he indeed knew a lot of the old traditions and that his knowledge was going to die with him, or it nearly died with him. And he decided thereafter to really make that knowledge available as much as he could.
This dream was where he was sitting at the head of the table. On this table was all kinds of food. Everything you could think of, very long table. Many people were in this building near this table, but they weren't touching what was on the table. So this person walks up to him and told Austin to share everything that he had, to share the things that he knows, share it with all these people. And he had the dream again, the same one. And he thought about it, and he understood that all this knowledge has been passed on to him by his ancestors. He was being asked to share what he knows. So he was not afraid to talk, because his ancestors, his grandfathers, his uncles have told him, whenever you have anything important to say about our land, our people, put on this robe, put it on, and we will be with you. Our spirit will be with you.
Austin saw and used the robe not only as an important clan heirloom, but as a historical document to secure tribal lands. He actually presented it in court as a deed of ownership, setting precedents for proving ownership of cultural land.
as Austin would say, I wear our history. And he says, I wear the deed to our land. And he would often ask, show me your deed. How old is this deed, this piece of paper that you have, where you can change the words on it? The sockeye robe, none of it has ever been changed. The history and the story behind that says that this robe, this sockeye robe, is one that says that this area, Hoot, belongs to the Cukaunak people.
Well, he won the case. The sockeye blanket is proof that Chilkoot area is theirs, and also the area around it. And that is a deed. It's recognized in court now.
The other area that I think that Austin was very significant in, and that was his recognition about the protection of the environment. And I recall at a Alaska Federation of Natives where he was being honored, and we all thought he was going to get up there and give this very honorific speech or accept this honor. But he took it as a time to maybe chastise Tlingit and Haida people and other Native people for their activities in resource development. And he told us, you must protect the environment. It is your responsibility.
As Haines began to have huge clear cuts during the 60s and the 70s, and lots of them, he began to wonder what was going to be left for his grandchildren, because the forest is the breadbasket as well as the waters being the breadbasket. And so he began to talk again to governmental agencies, anyone who would listen.
Many times I've heard various elders say that there are only particular people that you can tell the stories to and who can repeat the stories. And Austin knew the old ways, and he knew those traditions. And one of the things that I'd heard Austin say several times, and it really sticks in my mind from one celebration, he said that we can't follow all those old ways. Too many people are not learning, and too few of us know the old ways. And if we're going to pass them on, we have to pass them on to all of our young people who are interested.
No, over here.
I believe that he believed that the way for us to overcome a lot of our differences between races was for these different races to have a better understanding of each other. And so he taught with that idea in mind. Again, not just his own people, but all people.
He taught here in Juneau for the Indian Studies, and he would just go into the classroom, or talk to an assembly of children, and he would tell them, you can call me grandfather, and he would tell them stories, and then soon everybody knew him as grandfather.
I'm remembering a time when we were teaching in the Juneau School District, and Austin would come into the kindergarten classroom, and he'd have his shukiyat and his big robe, his chokat robe wrapped around him, and he would walk into the classroom and the fringe on the bottom of his robe would be swaying back and forth, and he had his dancing boots on, and the children would all kind of look to see who this was coming into their room, and he would go over to the corner of the room and sit down in one of those little kindergarten chairs, and he was a big man, so as he sat down, he was still big. And one of those little 5-year-olds quietly came over and said, "I've never seen a king before." I remember asking him one time, "Where should we begin?" And he said, "Well, you begin at the beginning." I said, "Where is the beginning?" And he said, "Well, the beginning is the stories. We'll begin with the stories." So he was very adept at being able to tailor these stories to what he thought needed to be taught. He simply knew how to make the events in his life from another era of time relevant to children's lives now. And that was a real gift.
I spend a lot of time with them in Juneau, and Austin would show me like places around there and the Tlingit name for Juneau. And he'd tell me some stories, and pretty much we just got to be really good friends.
Everything was a lesson with Austin. Everything that we did, there was some lesson behind it.
When I think about education, I always hear his words, it's for the children, it's for the grandchildren. The Chilkoot Culture Camp was established by Austin in the early 80s. He built it on a traditional fish gathering site of the Tlukahadi people. Traditional subsistence methods and important Tlingit customs and rituals are still taught in the camp today.
And one day he said, "I want this place to be a place where young people can come to learn how to put away fish for the winter. Our children aren't learning how to take care of themselves. I want to teach them. And there are other people who will come to teach them too. And I want them to hear the stories, because the stories will tell them how to live, even when I'm gone."
He invited the governor and all of these officials from the state, and I guess they thought that they were being honored, and in a way they were, but yet as he was making them traipse through, the camp, those grounds, and he was saying, this is why we claim this certain area, and he told the stories of the area. And I don't think that the state officials knew that they were being part of this process to validate his claims to it.
Austin thought it was important and told me that we teach the natives as well as the non-natives, because the non-natives would learn to grow and to respect what was important to us in our lives and our culture.
You guys, these drums are going to be better than last year's, but when you finish your drum and it's all tight, you get it so tight, you put your ear against it, and it should sound like thunder.
We have medicine classes, making traditional medicines. We have camping skills, survival in the woods. We have making bedrolls. We teach them beading skills for their regalia, the button making of the blankets. The fish that we do, the dry fish and the smoked fish, is all from the style that we learned from here, from the Klukwan area and from the elders that were from here. But a lot of it is the discipline that they have to have just to do the regular subsistence lifestyle.
Well, camp helps me to know more about my culture, because mostly in Anchorage, I don't learn a lot about it. My mom doesn't know a whole lot. She doesn't teach me that much, so when I come here, I learn a lot about it.
I really like the singing and dancing that I learn here. At home, I don't usually get a chance to learn a lot. And when I come up to Haines, it's a peaceful, relaxed atmosphere. I feel taken care of, and there are knowledgeable people that I can learn things from.
What I mostly learned at camp is all my traditional values and about mostly everything I know about the Tlingit culture. And if I didn't go to camp, I'd probably be somewhere in Juneau sitting around doing nothing. there's a cliff that you can see from the camp, and it's a shape of an eye, and it was naturally formed. And Austin called it the owl cliff because it has a big eye like an owl's. So what he said about it was that it's a way for our ancestors to look down on us. And he always was, you could see him on his break times always looking at the eye and stuff. What Austin said about the river is it's our voice of the ancestors that was here. You pretty much don't forget it's there. So it's like always remembering our ancestors.
The main part of this this camp is to get the young people interested in our native culture. And when it got so big that Austin couldn't handle it, so he asked Jackie and I to help him out.
He was training us for when he was gone so that we would be able to do those things and do them the right way. And so he was constantly training us. The last couple of years, he was constantly telling us the right level of smoke, teaching us, making us doing it, not doing it for us, but making us do it and telling him back how we did it. And I made a promise to him before he died that the camp would always flourish and that we would continue to do what he wanted.
I came up just short of meeting Austin, and that really kind of was a lump inside me because just hearing about him gave me a small sense of who he was, and I really wished that I had met him. But with you all carrying Austin within you has given me a sense of what the man was like, and it's been really wonderful.
I think people probably talk about the most symbolic and maybe one of his last efforts, and that was the giving of a song owned by the Cukaunak to the Tlingit people.
So it will not be forgotten. This is our grandfather's land. You will hear our voices on it. Be sure of your feelings, our aunties. Pray for your raven.
Austin's had a real large influence on my life and the things that I'm doing because I felt like he left me a responsibility. He always used to say that it'll be your turn pretty soon, grandson. It'll be your turn. He says, I'm not going to be living forever. When I look at his life, he did more than any man that I know of to fulfill the responsibilities that were given to him by his elders.
He was a very wise person. He used his wisdom every chance that he could to share and really challenge people.
What one young man said was he made us aware of who we are.
The greatest quality about Austin is probably his humanity to man, his generosity, his love for people.
Austin always said, my spirit will be here. Long after I'm gone, I have a strong spirit, and you'll feel it. And you feel it. You feel it when the hummingbirds come. You feel it when you walk the beach and you see the rocks that were used for making the hooligan oil. And you feel it when the rain comes and you know that it's nourishing all of the parts of the earth that are going to be there for the next generations. And you feel it when you hear the crows and the ravens, and you feel it when you see children learning.